I was given this responsibility to take an essay class for you. So before I begin this class, what I want to discuss is that, see, I'm not a very good writer. Okay. And second thing, like most of us, I'm coming from a very normal college and from science background, BTech and all. So 11th, 12th, basically actually went for preparation for JE, and then most of the times in the college also, since being a engineer. So I was not habitual to write uh, subjective essays or such kind of subjective statements, paragraphs, and all such kind of things. But however, throughout my journey in UPSC, my essay score has been extremely good. Okay. And the reason for this, I'm not boasting about it. This is what I want to share, ki how I somehow manage to score very good or decently well in essay class, in essay. It's mainly not because of my good content, or not because of my good reading habit, or not because of my good knowledge, but some basic tips that I understood about essay and have utilized it throughout the paper to actually score well. Okay. And this is the basic tips that I want to share it with you, because something that is essay, the knowledge that is required, that cannot be gained in 1 or 2 days, or maybe in 1 or 2 lectures. Nobody can actually tell you how to write an essay. Okay. But if you keep in mind some basic tips, and if you walk as per I advise, okay, and spend around 40 to 50 hours, your essay score, it cannot be the highest, but it won't be an obstacle in your selection. Okay. So it will always be above average, and that is what I can assure you about that. So the next 1.5 hours or 2 hours that we'll be spending, that will be just to share that basic strategy that you should be following while approaching this essay paper. Okay. So I'll divide this lecture into 4 or 5 major sections. So the first major section that I'll talk about, that is about the why importance of essay paper, why it is very important, and second, why essay was actually included in UPSC mains exam. What's the need for it when you have chat GPT and several AI softwares that can actually create a lengthy description of any topic? Why do you actually still need essay? The Google tha, sab kuch tha, you have stenos and various other people can work for you, but why do you still need essay here? Okay. Next is basically how to write a good essay. And what actually determines the marks. And the last one that we'll be talking about is the syllabus. So these are the 5 major sections that I'll be talking about in this entire lecture. I'll try to finish it in as soon as possible. So the first thing, why this essay paper is important. So दो तरीके से important है. One basically is the marks that you can score here. So if you see in the GS paper, almost around 400 is the highest score, or say one of the highest score that is expected. So you all aim for 1000 में से 400 number आने का. Okay, कि 400 किसी तरीके से पास हो जाए, पार हो जाए, and my score in GS will be good. And how much time you invest in that GS? Okay, that 4 subjects for 400 marks in the mains. It's almost an year that you spend on GS. Now in essay, if you score decently well, decent score bhi hai. So it's somewhere around 130 to 135 is the average score that you can get in essay. And how much time do you spend? If you talk to an average aspirant, nothing. Or if I be very specific, whatever you are reading, whatever, be it for history, geography, science, environment, economy, polity, ethics, or anything, that even if you're surfing on Facebook, YouTube, or doing any kind of task, even if you're walking on Old Rajendra Nagar reading newspaper, anything that you can do is adding to your knowledge that can be in some way or the other used for essay. और सिर्फ ये 1-2 साल की जर्नी नहीं, the entire experiences of your life, 20, 21 years, whatever is your age, that can be utilized to write an essay. Okay. So the marks that you can get plus the effort that you will be putting up makes this paper a very high return on investment, very high ROI. Okay. Compared to the other subjects. Yes, a greater ROI can be with respect to the optional, but yes, you will be spending around 6 months for that optional. And God forbid if your attempt, basically you are not qualifying in the very first attempt. So in that case, you are spending an year or maybe more than that in just an optional to score that 300 marks. But here, just 40-50 hours in total can actually get you 130-135 marks in total. Okay, so that's why this is an important paper with respect to rest of the return on investment. Second thing is, this is the first paper of your mains. Okay, आपका सबसे पहला पेपर है, and this will set the mood for your rest of the mains. So suppose if your essay paper went very well, so well begin is half done. So बाकी चीजों में आपका मन लगा रहेगा, आपकी मोटिवेशन बनी रहती है. But what happens, you are very excited for your mains. Most of you will be writing first mains this year. And in that case, you're very excited for your mains. You go on to write the paper and the very first paper is essay and you made it disastrous. आप ये समझ लो कि उसी समय आपको डूम्स की फीलिंग आ जाती है कि that this attempt is gone, this attempt is spoiled because the very first paper went very bad. And that's why the mood of the entire mains will be set by the essay paper, how it goes and how it doesn't goes. If your essay paper goes well, you have a very high motivation. If your essay paper went bad, the entire mood for the mains is gone. And that's why it's very important to manage this essay paper. I can tell you with honesty what actually happened, that in the second attempt, in the first attempt, I didn't wrote any essay in the practice. I just wrote it in the exam hall, managed to score somewhat good. Second attempt, I thought that essay has a good return on investment. I prepared very well. But what happened, as per my perception, my paper didn't well. And that's why I started to lose free, or say kind of became careless about the GS and the optional paper. What actually happened, the essay score came well, but because of my carelessness or because of the perception that I had that essay paper didn't went well, I actually sacrificed all the GS and the optional paper and all the scores actually went bad. So that's why beginning of the exam should set a very positive mood for you, so that you should be able to sustain your effort for the last 1 week. Okay, because you all have put some effort for 1 week, sorry, 1 year or maybe more than that. And वो last 1 week, अगर आपका शुरुआत ही खराब हो जाती है and you have a feeling of loss, in that scenario, आप GS और optional में बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा नहीं कर पाओगे. Okay. The third thing is with respect to comparison of the score in GS versus essay and optional. So essay and optional, they are the maximum scoring areas compared to the GS, where you won't find much variation in the score of a topper and in the score of the one who has not been qualified in the mains exam. Okay, the score variation is hardly 10-15 marks more than, मतलब exceptional cases of the toppers might be there कि 500 किसी topper का आ गया, but if you'll see, the GS score hardly varies between average score, means 300 to 410 or 415. That is the major variation. But in case of essay and optional, you will find major variations. Okay, so what actually is the variation in essay? You can see that people have scored in the double digit, 70, 75. And there are people who have scored in 140, 150. And when I used to give the attempt 2017, 18 and all, so in that year, the highest score was 175, 176 in essay. Okay, so that was the time. Right now, in these days, when I'm say observing the scores, so I'm finding it somewhere around 150 that is going to be the top score. But that too is a big number. So suppose if you are getting somewhere in that 2 digits, say 95, 100, or maybe 105, and the other one is actually creating a gap of 40-45 marks, it cannot be covered by GS score. आप उसको GS में उतना beat नहीं कर सकते. Okay, so that is the major reason that this can actually have a greater score compared to the GS. Moreover, it can have an equal score compared to the optional. in the optional also, having 130 plus score is considered to be an ideal goal. Say in any of the paper, 130, 140 is the ideal goal. And in essay also, this is the score that you can actually achieve. But that will never be possible in case of GS. And that's why it needs a special attention. And that makes this paper very important. Okay. The second thing is, why in the very first place UPSC had to introduce this paper? ये जरूरी क्यों है आप लोगों के लिए? Why? Is it a test of knowledge? What do you think? What do you think? Is it a test of knowledge? Essay. The answer to this is both yes and no. Okay. It is not a test of knowledge because they're not checking your factual knowledge. They do not want to know that how many facts do you remember. They do not want to know that how many books have you read. They do not want to know that you are very much aware about some particular concept or some rocket science or space technology and so on and so forth. या आपसे कुछ specific पूछ ही नहीं रहे. That if either you know it or you don't know it. Okay, so prelims mein it's like very specific. You know it, you don't know it. Okay, so there are some tips and tricks, but still the knowledge actually plays a very important role in coming to the right option. Okay, or in case of GS mains, the question is definitely a test of knowledge because you cannot beat around the bush. You cannot just talk about anything if you do not know precisely about what is being asked. Moreover, it is more important when the word limit has been specified in any of the questions, say 150 word, 250 words. In such scenario, you just cannot beat around the bush and write something significant that might be making sense because every word matters, right? So here, they are not checking any of these things. But yes, they actually are testing some type of knowledge. Maybe your emotions. Maybe how observant you are. Maybe how thoughtful you are. Maybe your psyche. How do you think? Okay. Maybe how do you connect the dots? Do you connect the dots? Do things actually matter to you or make some sense to you? Or everything that you're seeing is just fragmented events happening around the world with no connection at all. Okay, definitely that knowledge. So, कुछ चीजें हैं जिसके बारे में हम automatically ignorant हैं. That hardly matters to us. Say, for example, you might have come to the class today, or many online students might be attending the class today. So, while coming to the class, you must have gone through several restaurants open up. Okay, poha bech raha hai. Were you observant of who actually is eating the pohas, who actually is standing in front of the tea stall? Did it made any sense to you? Or did it actually bother to you that why there is so much of crowd standing in front of this poha shop? But yes, a businessman, when he will be coming to this line, will definitely be observant to this. He will look for a business opportunity here that yes, if there is a big market, and this big market can be catered by some food stalls that provide food maybe early in the morning. Because there are early classes is happening and students do require some nutritious breakfast actually to attend the classes, which will not be provided by the large scale messes. So some poha shops, some tea shops, and he might actually come up with some business idea that might actually give him some return. Now, this is the observation of a businessman while he's moving through a student area. He's not thinking about IAS, he's not thinking about the coachings and all such kind of things, but he's looking for nitty-gritties, the subtle details that actually he can observe while walking on the road, while moving on the road. So that observation you need to have when you basically are aspiring for a job to manage a particular district, to manage the law and order of a district, or maybe to manage the revenue services of India, to manage the customs or the GSTs. So ये सब चीजें आपको you should be very much observant about this. And if you are observant about this, definitely things will be written on the paper. Things will be precipitated on the paper. So this is what UPSC wants to check. Your knowledge about observation about things happening around you, things in your surrounding, and does it make sense to you? Does it connect the dot? Do you make any kind of understanding out of it? Or are these some kind of fragmented events happening around you? So that is the knowledge that they want to check. Second, what they want to check is your personality. What you will be creating a personality, or what kind of personality will you be showing to the examiner, is just the script of the paper that you will be writing. आपका नाम नहीं होगा, आपका नंबर नहीं होगा, आपकी प्रोफाइल नहीं होगी. Whatever he understands about you is through that script that you have written, say 10 pages of or 20 pages of script that goes to that person. Okay. And in this script, he will understand what kind of a person you are. Are you rational? Are you logical? Are you emotional or over emotional? Are you empathetic or compassionate? Or are you positive, optimistic as a person, or a pessimistic one? Now tell me, who do you think is going to evaluate your copy? For essay, who will UPSC appoint as a person to evaluate your copy? Will he be a specialist in sociology? Will he be a specialist in psychology? Will he be a specialist in anthropology or any other humanities subject? Or can be anyone? There is no criteria for evaluating the copies. But one thing that you can understand will be the criteria, will be something that will be common for all who will be evaluating your copy. That person will be a middle class person. कॉलेज का कोई टीचर है, वो प्रोफेसर लेवल का तो बंदा नहीं इवैल्यूएट कर रहा हो. So somebody lower than the rank of professor, assistant or associate professor, maybe a lecturer, might with a PhD degree, with very less experience, maybe, or a medium level experience, middle class, working 9 to 5, struggling to meet his end. He will be the one who will be evaluating your copy. ठीक है. और वो बंदे को आपने 20 पेज में अपनी बातें लिख के दी. And now you are only blabbering about something that is bad that is happening around you. You are telling a story about India in which there is no success, there is no growth, only problems, destructions, chaos, and delusions. Only that. अब ये बंदा है जो मिडिल क्लास का है, इसने शायद जल्दी जल्दी शादी की होगी, अभी उसके कुछ छोटे बच्चे होंगे, he is planning to educate them, and you are writing something about it, about India, which actually is making him feel disheartened. On the other way, there is somebody who is aspiring to work for India and believes in the story of India, believes in the growth story of India, that India is the best place to live or can be the best place to live despite all the problems. Okay, yes, there are problems, but he focuses not on the problems, but on the solutions. Or maybe the problems along with a lot of other positive aspects. Problems to har jagah hai. But he is focusing more on the solution. And that is why he is creating more optimistic view, that is narrative of India. एक middle class आदमी किसको पसंद करेगा? कौन किसको चाहेगा कि वो बंदा जाके ब्यूरोक्रेसी में जाके बैठे? एक वो जो बेसिकली एकदम रो रहा है, उसी की तरह, जिसने सारी होप छोड़ दी है, या वो जो इंडिया की स्टोरी पे बिलीव करता है. डेफिनेटली वी विल एग्री टू इट दैट द वन हु बिलीव्स इन द स्टोरी ऑफ इंडिया विल बी. सो आपके स्क्रिप्ट से अगर पढ़ने के बाद उस एग्जामिनर को ये बात लग गई कि इस बंदे को होना चाहिए, सो देन योर स्कोर विल बी एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरीली वेल. बट अगर आपके स्क्रिप्ट पढ़ने के बाद द एग्जामिनर फील्स दैट this person is as lost as I am, he does not believe in the story of India as I do, तो फिर आपका स्कोर अच्छा नहीं होगा. Because there is no objective criteria, there is no single way to write an answer. There is, sorry, essay. There is not a single concept that can be described correct or wrong, और आपका essay हो गया. It's all about you need to make that person believe that the one who has written this script has the capacity to change his future if he actually goes and holds the position in the bureaucracy. If he goes on to become, he should want that the person who has written this paper should actually become a district collector, maybe in my district. People like this should hold the responsibility of power. And when he feels that after reading your script, उसमें आपको नंबर देगा वो. और अगर उसको ये लगा कि ये आदमी सच में कुछ नहीं कर सकता, इसे बुराइयां ही करता रहेगा, तो वो आपको नंबर नहीं देगा. No matter how good English you have written, how sophisticated vocabularies you have written, how well read you are, doesn't matter. Okay. So remember, your personality should convince the examiner that this is the boy or the girl who should be holding the position of power and has the capability to change my life and people situated in my position if he or she gets the power. So this personality should be reflected in your paper, and that is what UPSC wants to check. Okay, personality cannot be seen through GSK paper, even if in ethics also, where you are actually constrained by the word limit, or where you are constrained by several other factors because the question that is too specific to actually explore multiple dimensions. But here, the personality can actually talk about a lot of things. How do you approach a problem? How do you break down a problem? And how you actually see a particular problem? And what kind of solutions are you suggesting? Is it something innovative, or is it something that's rhetoric, that is something that has been said by everyone and सब कुछ वही है? तो अगर ऐसा कुछ आपने अपने पेपर में लिखा जिससे उसको होप आती है, जिससे he becomes positive, he has something to share, that आपने कुछ ऐसा बताया कि शायद वो अपने दोस्तों को बताए, नहीं यार, I read somewhere that this is something that is good. That is what will make your score extraordinarily high. Okay, you have to convince the reader of that paper that you believe in the story, and after reading your essay, he should also believe in the story of India. Okay, and that is when the scores, when the like-mindedness happens, the score will actually reflect that. But in the other case, no matter how good you have written, number nahi aayega. Okay, so now you need to understand the importance. The next one is what determines your marks. One thing that I told you, that एक मिडिल क्लास आदमी है, वो आपकी स्टोरी से कन्विंस है या नहीं है. अगर कन्विंस है तो आपको नंबर देगा. ओके, क्योंकि वो चाहेगा कि आप जैसा इंसान जाके ब्यूरोक्रेसी में बैठे. बट अदर देन दैट, let's talk about the content that you have written, the script that you have written. What in that script will actually give you more marks? There are some few finer details that you need to keep in mind. The first one, the marks depends upon the choice of the topic. So you must have seen that since 2014, the essay paper actually has started to ask 2 essays to be written. Before that, there was supposed to be 1 essay that has to be written of 250 marks. Okay, now there are 2 sections. Each of the sections have 4 choices, and out of both the sections, you have to choose 1 essay each. Okay. Now, what actually happens? The choice of the question plays a very important role, and this is the very first step. कई बार क्या होता है कि हम flow में कोई question choose कर लेते हैं, and in the mid of that essay writing, we feel that कि ये गलत choice थी, because after 500-600 words, we fell short of the content, or the content is getting repetitive. एक ही जैसे examples, एक ही जैसे context में हम बात करते जा रहे हैं. And in such cases, आपका वो question तो खराब होगा, and unfortunately, if that's the first question, the second automatically gets disrupted. The entire essay paper gets spoiled. Okay. कई सारे लोग बहुत ज़्यादा over smart होते हैं, or they try to be over smart in the exam. Don't engage into such kind of activities. They actually think that कि एक टॉपिक है वुमेन का, एक टॉपिक है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का, अब सेक्शन ए में वुमेन का टॉपिक है, सब लिखेंगे, मैं क्यों लिखूं? I need to write something extraordinary, something that will not be written by else. And these kind of rumors do spread in that entire ORN market कि वो टॉपिक सबने लिखा है, तेरे को नंबर नहीं मिलेगा. And ये कम attempted topic है, if you write this, you will get more marks. But कम attempted topic इसलिए है कि उसके ऊपर content develop करना in the exam hall is very difficult. And how, or by God's grace, are you going to develop the content on a topic which you yourself know that this is relatively, आपको भी लग रहा है कि ये कम attempted होगा. That means you yourself feel that the content on this particular topic is difficult to be generated in that limited period of time. So why to choose that topic? Just to show that you are different. But writing a very average or a below average essay, or maybe you might not be able to write even 1,000 words on it. And that realization usually comes mainly after 600 words are done. क्योंकि कई बार क्या होता है कि कम अटेम्प्टेड टॉपिक को चूज करने का एक रीजन होता है कि एक इंस्टेंट हंच आना. ये एक एग्जांपल आपने कहीं से सुना है, पढ़ा है, और आपको जैसे ही वो एग्जांपल से मैच करता है, वो कुछ दिखा, आपको लगा कि ये एग्जांपल तो बहुत सॉलिड है, ये लिख देंगे तो एग्जामिनर अपने सीट से खड़ा हो जाएगा, एकदम ताली बजाएगा. And you feel like I'll be attempting this topic, but after writing that example, exhausting all the possible dimensions related to that, you feel that कि अब मेरे पास आधे 600 वर्ड से ज्यादा कुछ है ही नहीं. At that point, the game is over, and वो essay का पेपर तो खराब हो गया. और essay का पेपर खराब होना, as I've told you, that first paper है, if that goes bad, the entire mains is spoiled. So choice of the question makes a very important aspect for determining your marks. And that's why for every essay paper that you choose, that you read, 2 to 5 minutes should be given for choosing the question. Why I'm saying 2 minutes, why so much of big bracket? 2 minutes, maybe it might be a coincidence that you prepared 2 particular themes and you got the essay of those themes in the mains paper. So in that case, it's like no-brainer कि ये दोनों theme पे practice किया था and I got the essay. I'll just have to reproduce what I have already read. So in that case, 2 minutes. But in case all the themes are basically making some kind of or sounding strange to you, in that case, it might take some time. So even if you're taking 5 minutes to choose a topic, there is no harm in it. Take your time, choose a good topic. Plus, second thing, choose a topic not based on which will be attempted more or not more, but based on a topic on which you have more arguments, more content. So content should be the king in deciding the topic rather than the one which will be attempted by less, one which will be attempted by more. Don't experiment in the exam hall. Second, what determines your score is the coherence. If you actually see what UPSC has written as a guideline for essay, so this is the exact statement that I have cut, copy, paste from UPSC notification. Candidates may be required to write essays on multiple topics. They will be expected to keep closely to the subject of the essay, to arrange the idea in an orderly fashion, and to write concisely. Credit will be given for effective and exact expression. Okay, so what UPSC actually says that what you need to do, you need to stay close to the topic. That means लिखते लिखते किसी और डायरेक्शन में ना चले जाओ. Okay, so for that, what is very much important for staying close to the topic, read the topic multiple times. Once you have written one paragraph, one statement, revisit the topic, just get back to the topic. Because क्या होता है कि what actually you do when you write one paragraph, आप उस paragraph से connecting line लिखना शुरू कर देते हो. And all of a sudden, what actually happens, you move in a very different direction. And then in the middle of 2 paragraphs or after 2 or 3 paragraphs, you realize ये तो मैं किसी और डायरेक्शन में लिख रहा हूं, and then you come back to the topic. So UPSC itself has mentioned that you should be staying close to the topic. Don't digress from what is being asked. And for that, after every paragraph, read the topic again, again, and again. How many times, how many paragraphs you're writing, just revisit the topic. Just tell your brain every time or reprogram your brain every time that this is what needs to be written. Am I going on this? कई बार क्या होता है कि that one particular topic has multiple keywords. You explore one keyword. Say, for example, there was a question on AI. So the question was not specifically on AI, but what actually happened that students, I have seen some essays, they started writing only on AI. और जो second phrase है उसका कि AI in some particular context, that context was gone. So what is AI? How it is actually functioning? What are the possibilities of it? And what are the chances that it might harm the humans? And so on and so forth. इस तरीके से वो बात करते चले गए. तो वो essay, rather than in the context that it was asked, it became an essay on artificial intelligence. So that's why it's always required to revisit the topic again and again and again, just to make sure that you are staying close to the topic. The second thing that it says that the ideas should be arranged in the orderly fashion. So there should be order. There should be structure. And only then structure will create a cohesive idea. Okay. What actually, suppose if you are supposed to write about swimming, write an essay on swimming. So you will mention the steps that is required for swimming. You'll say that, okay, I'll go to a shop, buy the swimming costume, go to a changing room, remove my earlier dress, will wear the swimming costume, approach the swimming pool, take a dive, swim, make some moves, come out, take the towel, and so on and so forth. Now, what actually happens? As soon as you hear swimming, you go there, you just write that I'll go to the swimming pool and jump. And then you realize कि यार swimming costume तो mention करना भूल गए. And then you say that, don't forget to change your clothes to swimming costume. And that is when you have made or told the examiner that you have committed a mistake in identifying the structure. You are basically, and this is what happens in the mains also, in GS answers also, that whatever comes to your mind, pop-ups in your mind, you just keep on writing in that order. And आपने social aspects में कुछ लिखा, economic aspects बताने लगे, फिर आपको याद है कि social aspect में ये चीज miss हो गई. And then in the third point you write about the social aspects. So there you are actually making or telling the examiner that yes, मेरे से ये गलती हो गई है. अब जब आपने खुद ही अपनी गलती बता दी, so he is bound to cut your marks. He might not have realized it throughout the paper, but you, after mentioning it, you actually have told him that this is the fault that I have made. So if you have committed this mistake, let it go like this. Don't express it, don't actually accept it. And if you have accepted it, be ready to face the consequence. And the consequence will be deduction of marks. So order, the structure is very much important. And for that, it's always required to brainstorm and structure the essay before you start writing. So the structure should be made beforehand. कई बार क्या होता है कि आपने essay को पेपर को देखा और आपने सीधा essay लिखना शुरू कर दिया. And when you do so, you have not given time for your brain to actually digest that topic, come up with the points and arrangement of that points in a cohesive order. Now in that, this cohesion will actually attract the attention of the examiner. Okay, so this coherence is very much important. And the structure is very much important. And how do you actually create this structure? What is the technique that you can use? One is that I have told you कि brainstorm करना and then structuring the raw content that you have. Second thing is use of headings or subheadings. Now these headings and subheadings should not be intro body conclusion. ये तो एकदम बच्चों जैसा लगेगा कि कल का लड़का अभी intro body conclusion लिख रहा है. These headings should be something appropriate with respect to the topic. Okay, not just intro body and conclusion. Something like, for example, there is a question on Indian women. Okay, the status of Indian women, or for example, there is a question, the idea of new women in India is a myth or reality, something like this, or fulfilled woman in India is a myth or reality? Somewhere in 2016-17, this question came. So now, what you have to actually say that कि आज के time पे fulfilled woman या empowered woman, is it a myth or reality? You just have to talk about कि women in the past or Indian women in the past, the status of Indian women at present, issues and challenges, okay, and then window of opportunity or maybe some kind of way forward that can be done, and then the optimistic conclusion. So just rather than intro, body and conclusion, these should be the headings that you should be approaching the essay with. Now you have to create those headings. You have to create subheadings. But remember, never ever write in bullet points. Never ever write in bullet points in essay. There is no scope of using bullet points in the essay. कभी भी नहीं. Even किसी भी particular paragraph में अगर आपको कुछ pointers देने भी हैं, तो that should also be written in paragraph form. ऐसा नहीं है कि जैसे जहां एक point खत्म होगा, say for example point A, wherever it ends, you will start with the point B and then point C like this, rather than A, B, C. इस तरीके से नहीं करना. Are you getting this? So this is how you can actually create a coherence or a structured essay. Third one, how to create it is through using connectors between paragraphs. So whenever you transit from one paragraph or one dimension to another, it should not seem like as if आपने पूरा touch ही lose कर दिया. It should be always connected. Connection can be done by using some kind of connector words, although, despite, however, okay, or maybe by taking some cue from the previous paragraph and then using it to open up a new dimension. For example, if you're talking about, say, political aspect now of a particular phenomena, now you can say that this political aspect does not confine itself to politics only or say power aspects only, but has an economic dimension as well, or has social implications as well. Okay, you actually said that what you were discussing is not confined only to that field, but has something other to some other areas to say impact. And in that case, you have opened up the economic dimension. Write about the economic dimension, and then you can say that economic aspect not just is talking about the material well-being, but also affects the mental well-being. You're basically talking about the psychological aspect now. Okay, connect किया आपने और उस connection से फिर आप दूसरे dimension पे जा रहे हो. Rather than simply political लिख दिया, economic लिख लिया, scientific लिख दिया, social लिख दिया. तो इनमें connection क्या है? Okay, you are reasserting what you wanted to say. ठीक है, you are close to the topic, but what actually happened? This essay becomes a fragmented reassertion of the topic without any connection between the body topics or dimensions. Okay, so that's why the structure is important and the coherence in that structure is very important. The next one is it should be interesting, so that it should be able to hold the interest of the examiner. अब आपका ऐसे बहुत ज्यादा बोरिंग होगा. मतलब आप देखो ना कि अगर आप even if you have done like graduation in English from St. Stephen's College or say XYZ College, आपकी इंग्लिश बहुत अच्छी है, आप EPW का आर्टिकल आपने कभी पढ़ा है या हिंदू एडिटोरियल? Are they interesting? They are very good written editorials. Are they interesting? Is it possible for every person to read those Hindu editorials? No. And that means the essay should not be like Hindu editorials or EPW articles. That's good news for us because that's beyond our capability as well to write essays or say essays of that quality or that level. तो अगर उस लेवल का लिखना भी नहीं है, because you need to understand that एक middle class professor या assistant associate professor is coming to UPSC office at 9 a.m. in the morning and then keeps on evaluating the copy. He'll be reading your copy and 10 others like yours in the entire day. More or less, you all have read the same kind of books, Lakshmikant, or say G.C. Leong or so on and so forth. and you all must have read the same kind of current affairs magazines और same kind of current affairs portals आप access कर रहे हो, more or less सबका content same है. आपने कुछ आप जो भी ऐसे लिख रहा है उनकी लास्ट 2-3 साल की जिंदगी में experiences भी similar. So what different are you going to write that other person is not going to write? The game is not to write some different content. The game is to present it in an interesting manner so that you can create or always create hook that examiner to your paper. So it should be very much interesting. So interesting कैसे हो सकता है? By using stories or some anecdotes. Simple language. Language should not be too complicated. Vocabulary should be simple और layman. आप ये मान के चलते हो कि आपका एसए की कॉपी कोई इंग्लिश का टीचर शायद इवैल्यूएट करे. Okay, but what about a person who is actually teaching psychology and might be graduated in Hindi medium and then chose English medium as his medium of conversation or medium of education in graduation or and then in college? तो अब आपकी अगर भाषा बहुत ही ज्यादा ओवर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, vocabulary is too sophisticated, it might not appeal or it might not be able to attract the interest of the examiner. So it should be very simple, to the point, and should be able to attract the interest of the examiner. Okay, next one is some basic idea on presentation. What should be done? It's an extension of the previous thing that I was talking about. That one thing, what needs to be addressed is never write too long paragraphs. अब कई लोगों का मैंने ऐसे देखा है कि एक एक पेज पूरा का पूरा पैराग्राफ लिखा होता है. That one entire page of essay or a paragraph देखते ही disheartened हो जाता है आदमी, क्या पढ़ूं मैं इसको. Okay, and what might happen when you write too long paragraphs, आप भी टॉपिक से बहुत जल्दी डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाते हो. In the mid of the paragraph you will not realize that you are moving towards another dimension. You are not at all connected to the essay topic as such. So that's why never ever write too long paragraphs. Okay, in a page what you should be doing is at least 2 to 3 paragraphs should be there, and on an average in a particular page there should be 80 to 90 words. So you can understand that at max a paragraph can have 40-45 words अगर आप 2 paragraph लिख रहे हो. And say a minimum level पे a paragraph should have 30 words. That means 3 to 4 statements or sentences in one paragraph. So first thing, not write too long paragraphs. And second, कुछ लोगों का पैराग्राफ और स्टेटमेंट में फर्क ही नहीं समझ में आता. उनका एक पूरा का पूरा स्टेटमेंट ही पैराग्राफ होता है. The statement is too long. वो लिखते जा रहे हैं and what actually happens as you are trying to complete the statement thinking that it is connected, क्या हो जाता है कि later part of the statement makes no sense or no connection with the previous part of the statement. So never ever write too long statement. It should be very short. So there is no hardcore word limit that how long a statement should be, but on an average, your average statement should be around 8 to 10 words. इससे ज़्यादा बड़ा नहीं होना चाहिए. So try to be very much concise. The next one is time management. This will play a very important role, very crucial role in your essay paper, and you will realize it when you appear for essay. What actually happens is that the first essay gets a greater chunk of your time and the second essay suffers. Even if you have practiced a lot, आप शुरुआत में flow बनाने में paper में, it actually takes some time. So to warm up your brain, to keep to bring all the content that you have actually prepared at one place and then create a orderly structure. It takes time. आपको अंदाजा भी नहीं लगेगा कि 1.5 घंटे से कहीं ज्यादा टाइम बीत चुका है. Or usually what happens in when the 2 essay has started to come, so पहले 1 घंटे 45 मिनट या 2 घंटे आपके पहले essay में चले जाते हैं, and you are actually left with only 1 hour in the second essay. So definitely the time that you are giving to the second essay is less. आपका second essay का score suffer कर जाएगा. So even if you have written, and that is what actually happened in my second attempt, so जिसकी वजह से मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मेरा पेपर खराब हो चुका है. Okay, this should not be done. You should exactly divide the time into 2 halves and give 90 minutes each to each of the essay. Not even 1 minute extra or less. 90 minutes each. Now, in that 90 minutes, some basic breakdown should be around 2 minutes for actually choosing the topic from a particular section, 2 to 3 minutes. Then 20 to 25 minutes for brainstorming on that topic. Okay, think about that topic. And when you brainstorm, just write whatever is coming into your mind. Okay, brainstorming the topic. Then 60 to 65 minutes for writing the essay. That should be your time division. And the same should be for the other one. 2 to 3 minutes for choosing the topic, then brainstorming, and then a majority part of the time for writing the essay. कई बार क्या होता है कि what we do is basically we feel that कि ये essay तो पढ़ा हुआ है, इसमें structure करने में, brainstorm करने में it won't take much time. I'll start writing it from the scratch itself. I don't need to prepare a structure. And in that case, the second essay suffers miserably and your score will reflect that. आपको लगा कि बहुत अच्छा लिखा है, but आपके essay में वो सारे flaws that you would have removed after brainstorming and structuring the essay will be reflected in your essay. Okay. The last but the most important aspect that will actually determine your score is the beginning and the end. How you begin and how you end. So your essay is just like a movie, not a short film. Answers are your short films. ठीक है? It does not, a movie, अगर किसी audience को movie में retain रखना है, तो the movie should have some element, कुछ spice, कुछ होना चाहिए. That actually should be able to retain the audience. But आपके पास कुछ ऐसा incentive भी तो होना चाहिए that it should be able to actually create that curiosity in the mind of the examiner or the audience. और मूवी की शुरुआत ही आपको बोरिंग लग गई, यार समझ ही नहीं आ रही. Means suppose करो in the first half an hour of a movie, it's a 3-hour movie. In the first half an hour of the movie, you feel like it's disgusting, समझ में ही नहीं आ रही, कुछ भी सेंस नहीं बना और पहले आधे घंटे में ही नींद आ गई. But actually what happened? It's ज़्यादा chances है कि आप मूवी छोड़ के चले जाओगे और maybe you will sleep in the movie hall itself. Okay, and that might have happened with you in several kind of movies which were over exaggerated, but अंदर से कुछ खास था नहीं. Okay, so that's why the beginning makes a lot of sense. So your beginning should be very good, and your beginning will actually create the curiosity, will actually inspire or motivate the examiner to read further. Okay, और अगर आपकी beginning अच्छी है, it's just like movie में hero की entry, and if that hero की entry appeals you, or the main character's introduction actually appeals you, it might be able to say draw your attention for the rest of the movie. Okay, and as soon as you actually start losing your attention, means you're getting impatient कि अब बहुत time हो रहा है. So then an appropriate end, or just like the climax of the movie, will actually reinstate your attention, will actually make that story interesting again. Okay, कि जहां तक आपकी peak level तक लेके गया आपकी attention को, and then जैसे जैसे आपको लगा कि now it's losing, now it's fading, और आपका जो impression that was created by the introduction is now fading, now is the time to end with a equally appropriate conclusion. So this beginning and the end will actually decide the score. Or trust me, the score that we actually give does not comes with reading the body. This is a human psyche. आपके एसे के पहले 2 पेज में ही एक इंप्रेशन बन चुका है कि एसे अच्छा है, एवरेज है या बिलो एवरेज. And if the initial impression is that ki below average hai because of the inappropriate intro, in that case, no matter how good the body and the conclusion is, your essay score will not be very good. आप उस below average से ज़्यादा raise नहीं कर पाओगे अपने score को. And if the initial impression is that your essay's introduction is too good, extraordinarily well, something very unique, in such case, what will happen that your essay score will definitely be above average. आपका essay score top तो होगा नहीं होगा doesn't matter. That depends upon the body and conclusion as well. But it will be above average because the initial impression that you have created is good. Okay. Now most of us actually suffer from these two aspects only. हमें body की कोई problem नहीं है. Body, we all have read enough content that we have n number of points to write in the body of an essay. आपने history पढ़ी है, आपने geography पढ़ी है, you have read economics, you have read politics, you have read science, you have read environment. Anything that is under the surface of earth, you have a basic knowledge of it. This is how UPSC is actually designed the syllabus. Anything that is happening in and around you of any dimension, you actually have a knowledge. And plus, most of you have optional that is humanities. Okay, so आप बहुत सारी philosophies और बहुत सारे say kind of thoughts वगैरह, theories वगैरह भी पढ़ चुके. Now, body will never be a problem for any one of you, I believe. Okay. The problem actually comes is how to begin and then how to finish what you have actually begun. And that is the most neglected part of our essay writing. हम लोग 10-12 essay पढ़ेंगे, बहुत सारे stories और बहुत सारी चीजें और पढ़ेंगे, but we will not be focusing upon how to introduce and how to conclude. But rather we keep on gathering, accumulating content. इस coaching का content देख लो essay का, उसका भी देख लो essay का, इसने ये बताया है, ये भी देख लो, वो भी कर लो, and all such kind of things. And that is what we are doing with GS as well. Gathering as much as content as possible, but rather than focusing upon how to begin the answer and how to end the answer, which will initially be creating the impression in the mind of the examiner. Because body में आप कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं लिख पाओगे जो बाकी लोग नहीं लिख रहे. So in such cases, focus upon intro and conclusion. Now, the problem is that good intros and conclusion, as long as you have written like hundreds of essays, cannot be created in the exam hall. So in such case, I would suggest create some or have a list of some prepared intros and conclusion that you will be taking with you in the exam hall. We'll discuss about it in a few minutes, but you should have some intros and conclusion already prepared that can be utilized in the exam hall. Okay, rather than preparing it from the scratch in the exam hall itself. Okay, so these are some of the aspects that you should be keeping in mind to get a good score. Now the next one. How to write a very good essay. Now in that case, essay as a good essay आपके लिए और मेरे लिए बस इतना ही है UPSC के हिसाब से जिसका स्कोर अच्छा है. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether it will be published in a journal or in say some kind of magazine or not, doesn't matter to us. अगर UPSC में स्कोर अच्छा है तो मेरा essay बढ़िया है, और अगर UPSC स्कोर नहीं दे रहा, it's not rewarding it, that means my essay, irrespective of whatever comments I have got, whatever feedbacks I have got, I might have been writing for Indian Express or whatever, मेरा essay UPSC के criteria पे fit नहीं बैठ रहा. Okay, so marks is the only criteria. Now, in this case, a good essay, you need to understand the three aspects. One is introduction, body, and conclusion. So they have some specific properties that needs to be kept in mind while writing this three elements. What is introduction? We all know that introduce तो करना है, पर introduce में करना क्या है? कुछ भी किसी भी तरीके से introduce कर दे. First, we need to understand what is the meaning of introduction. An introduction simply means the shortest summary of whatever is going to come. It's the shortest summary of your body and conclusion. So what is going to come should have a reflection in your intro itself. Okay. So it's simply like telling the examiner what you are going to express in the further content that is going to come. A brief, but सब कुछ सारे पत्ते एक साथ नहीं खोल देने हैं, but एक hint तो देना है that these are the things that I'll be talking about, that you will be listening to or you will be actually reading about. Okay, so it's just like the hero ki entry, but with some points or some aspect of the story still hidden that will actually create the curiosity in the mind of the examiner. Okay, then that intro should be connected to the theme of the essay. It should not be like कि कोई भी स्टोरी से शुरू कर दिया एंड देन बाद में किसी तरीके से उसको रिलेट करने की कोशिश करें, बार बार एफर्ट लगा रहे कि वो स्टोरी वो पोएम किसी तरीके से रिलेट हो जाए. एनीथिंग गुड cannot be appropriate intro unless and until it is connected to the theme in the very first line itself. Okay, now intro, one other thing that should be there with intro is that it should be from general to specific. Okay, now general to specific means start from a broad background and by the end of the intro you should focus exactly upon what is being asked on the in the topic. Very general to specific. Normally what we do is we do not follow general, शुरू करते हैं और broad कर देते हैं उसको. Okay, but rather than making it more broader, what we should do is we should focus on something that is very specific. जो पूछा गया है उस point पे एकदम narrow down कर देना है. So say for example there might be a question on water disputes, स्टेट इंटरस्टेट वाटर डिस्प्यूट पे क्वेश्चन है या फिर एनवायरमेंट रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन है और सम बेसिक क्वेश्चंस दैट आर रिलेटेड टू. अब एनवायरमेंट के ऊपर कोई बात आ रही है, ठीक है, तो आप एनवायरमेंट से शुरू करो कि समथिंग दैट इज वेरी मच नेसेसरी फॉर द सर्वाइवल ऑफ ह्यूमंस एंड सर्वाइवल ऑफ अदर स्पीशीज ऑफ बायोडाइवर्सिटी ऑन अर्थ, बट देन ग्रेजुअली नैरो डाउन टू व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज बीइंग टॉक्ड अबाउट इन दैट एसे रादर दैन just beating around the bush and वो environment को बार बार उसी topic पे बार बात की जा रहे हैं. So start from general idea and move to the specific idea in the intro itself. Okay, now what ways intro can be written? There are multiple ways. One is you can write quotations. Okay, but अभी जो essays आ रहे हैं they in itself are quotations. So a quotation cannot be begin with another quotation. I have seen these cases also, जहाँ पे the topic of the essay itself is a quotation, and the student began the answer of or writing the essay with another quotation itself. अब एक कोट को आप दूसरे कोट से किस तरीके से जस्टिफाई कर सकते हो और समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि आपने जो कोटेशन कोट किया है पहले उसका essay लिखा है या what was actually asked आप उसका essay लिख रहे हो. So quotation should not be followed by another quotation. Okay, plus अगर एक general theme है that something like women or say gender issues or maybe health, education, globalization, economic development, environmental sustainability, something like this, or artificial intelligence or so on and so forth, in such cases you can begin with a quotation. Okay, but एक चीज और भी इसके साथ प्रॉब्लम है कि दैट यू शुड नॉट यूज और ओवर यूज कोटेशंस. ऐसा नहीं है कि हर पैराग्राफ के बिगनिंग में आप कोई ना कोई कोटेशन यूज कर रहे हो. कई बार क्या होता है कि वी विल बी रीडिंग लाइक 10-15 कोटेशंस और अपने को 10-15, अब किस्मत की बात है कि जो 10-15 पढ़ी थी और जो 10-15 हमें याद हैं उसमें से 3-4 एक ही क्वेश्चन में फिट बैठ रही हैं. नाउ दैट क्रिएट्स अ काइंड ऑफ, इसको हिंदी भाषा में चुल कहते हैं, कि सब मेंशन करना है, जितनी कोटेशन पता है सब लिख, छूट ना जाए कुछ. तो एक पैराग्राफ में एक कोटेशन, दूसरे में दूसरी, तीसरे में तीसरी एंड चौथे में ऐसे ऐसे करते करते सारी कोटेशन बता दी, जिंदगी में जितनी पढ़ी है सब लिख दी उसमें. तो दैट विल शो द shallowness of your knowledge. Okay, so 1 or 2 quotations it's okay, but don't overuse quotations. Second, a very easy to go method is use of anecdotes. Some short stories. These stories can be real. Maybe you have read Modern India. गांधी के बारे में काफी स्टोरीज होंगी. निखिल सर इज वेरी गुड इन स्टोरी टेलिंग. Okay, so Vishal sir, he might have told you some stories of medieval and ancient India. Okay, some stories, some narratives. Okay, that story doesn't matter that कि इसके में कोई character है या नहीं. कुछ ऐसे narrative भी हो सकते हैं. That's some narrative. Okay, some condition of the past or some condition during the freedom struggle, something like that. Those real stories can be mentioned. Or you can create a story of your own, fictional, but it should always be a third party story. You should never. कई बार क्या होता है कि कई ऐसे में एनेक्डोट्स क्रिएट करने के चक्कर में आई वर्ड आ जाएगा कि आई वाज गोइंग टू द मार्केट इन 2009 and so things happened, I learned so and so things. So never ever go with the first party approach in your stories. That story should always have a third party approach. Okay, and then the story should not be too long. Okay, ये पता चले कि एक large chunk of the essay is basically taken up by the story itself. So here what will happen is either you will have to exceed the word limit of that essay, one. Second, if you don't exceed the word limit, the examiner will perceive it as if you didn't knew the content about the essay, and that's why you took or you covered the major part of the essay with the story itself. Okay, so the story should be not more than 100 words, not more than that. If the story is too long, that means it's not appropriate or apt for your intro. Okay, अब आप उसको short करके लिख सकते हो, believing that examiner might be aware of that story. वो इतना पढ़ा लिखा तो होगा कि जो story आपको पता है उसको भी पता रही होगी. तो you can just say leave some say general aspect of that story. पूरा dialogue by dialogue नहीं लिखना है, but overall जो आप convey करना चाहते हो, जो moral आप देना चाहते हो, that can be highlighted and that can be mentioned. Okay, but never exceed more than 100 words in that stories. Okay, then the third approach of beginning the intro is based on some current incident that might have happened in and around you, whatever area you live, or say in India, or say at the global level, something that might have happened. तो some major जैसे races पे या discrimination पे कोई question है, तो अभी कोई recent racial killing हुई हो, कोई genocide हुआ हो, कोई basically women के ऊपर issue है, तो निर्भया, or say Hathras gang rape that has happened, or say communal violence, some kind of that new case, or Gurgaon में जो that incident है, something that might have begun very recently and it's very much matching with that particular topic that has been asked. So just begin with that incident. That incident can give you the insights to actually open up that topic. Okay, that is the third. And the last one is in the intro itself. That is the most simplest way. And जब कोई ऑप्शन नहीं बचे तभी ये यूज कर. मतलब आपको कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि बिगिन कैसे करना है, एकदम ब्लैंक हो गए हो, अब छूटने वाली नौबत है कि अब अगर इंट्रो नहीं लिखा और कुछ और समझ में नहीं आ रहा है तो पेपर छूट जाएगा. तो इन सच केस ट्राई टू ब्रेक डाउन दैट टॉपिक इन द इंट्रो इटसेल्फ. दैट pick up some keyword, try to explain that keyword, and then in the intro itself explain what is going to be the structure of your essay. So उसमें आप वहां पे जा सकते हो कि in this essay what will be discussed is so and so aspects, so and so aspects, and इस तरीके से आप essay में ही break down कर दो उसको. Okay, अब आपको कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा तो, but these are the ways that you should begin the essay first rather than going by but this might happen provided the topic is too tough and you're not getting an apt story, quote, anecdote, or maybe incident actually to relate to that topic. But most of the cases में अगर आप इस जगह पे जा रहे हो, इस तरीके से जा रहे हो, तो आप ये चीज समझो कि कहीं ना कहीं शायद टॉपिक चूज करने में गड़बड़ी हो गई. Because in the very first instance or in the very first step, I am facing that restriction to write the answer. Okay. So that's the last way and should not be used as long as you have any of these possibilities left. Okay. Then the second thing is the body. What should be the part of your body? means what should be the characteristics of your body. As I've told you that your examiner can be of any stream. So in that case, what you're writing is an essay, not a thesis. Thesis में क्या होता है कि what you are writing is a detailed description of a particular topic, जिसमें आप एक ही डोमेन को, एक ही डिमेंशन को to a large extent explore करोगे. But essay cannot be written like a thesis in which you are actually exploring only one dimension to a very large extent. Plus, it might happen that the person, आपका जो essay है, हो सकता है कि आपके ऑप्शनल से मैच कर जाए. आपने सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ी है, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी पढ़ी है, साइकोलॉजी पढ़ी है, पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. It might somehow match with your optional. Okay, and you feel like I have a lot of content to write. In such case, हो सकता है the person who might be evaluating your copy, अब ऐसा तो है नहीं कि इस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक के लिए उस पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रीम के प्रोफेसर को लेके आएंगे. Any random person will be given the copies irrespective of whatever topics that students have attempted. So in such a case, suppose if you have written your option is public administration and you have written a particular essay on governance and all, and the examiner actually is a psychologist or maybe an anthropologist by graduation or sociologist by graduation, in that case what you have written in great detail might be very much relevant for that topic as long as it is read by a public administration graduate. But that might not be making any sense to that person. लगेगा एक ही चीज को बार बार बता रहे हैं और बहुत ज्यादा ओवर जार्गन्स यूज किए हैं जो एक पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड है. That should not happen. So your essay, the first criteria for your body to be good is it should be multi-dimensional. Okay, it should not restrict to a particular dimension beyond a certain limit. And if I just have to give a number, there should be minimum 6 to 7 dimensions that should be mentioned. Even if it is more, it's good, but minimum 6 to 7 dimensions होने चाहिए. So while choosing a topic, you should think whether you have 6 to 7 dimensions to address in this topic, or are you restricted to one dimension only? If the answer is one dimension, never choose that topic. 6 to 7 dimensions should be there. Okay. Second, your body should not represent or reflect your optional. Never. आपको यूज करना है, inherently आप यूज करोगे. You have read that subject and it's for the very first time in your life you have read this subject in so much detail. You might be a graduate, but graduation कैसे होती है, we all know it. Okay, so how do we complete the graduation? Last night study करके and somehow we go and write the paper. We never connect to a particular subject as long as we prepare it as an optional. ऑप्शनल के प्रिपेयर करने के साथ साथ 6 महीने में इफ यू आर राइटिंग मेंस तो डेफिनेटली आपका एक सब्जेक्ट के साथ कनेक्ट बन चुका है. तो कहीं ना कहीं आपकी थिंकिंग उस ऑप्शनल से इन्फ्लुएंस तो होगी. यू जस्ट कैन नॉट अवॉइड इट, बट यू शुड बी कॉन्शियस अबाउट इट दैट ठीक है, आप उसको रोक तो नहीं सकते कि थिंकिंग आपकी ऑप्शनल से इफेक्ट हो रही है, बट यू शुड नॉट बी रिफ्लेक्टिंग इट ऑन द पेपर. सो like being a sociologist, आप M.N. Srinivas, आंद्रे बेते और से कार्ल मार्क्स, मैक्स वेबर, G.H. मीड कोट करे जा रहे हो. किसने ऐसा बोला? Now these are not very prominent scholar in the layman discourse. Say, but yes, quoting about Mahatma Gandhi, Patel, Ambedkar, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Nanak, Kabir, okay, or maybe Shankaracharya, such kind of general personality which are not constrained to a particular optional itself, but they are part of our day-to-day discourse. That is okay. But something that is restricted to a particular option should not be quoted. आप उनकी thoughts quote कर सकते हो without quoting the name of that person. Okay. So, not represent the optional. Then, it should not be example heavy. अब आपने डिमेंशंस तो बताए, बट ऐसा ना हो जाए कि आप हर जगह से बस एग्जाम्पल उठा रहे हो कि डिफेंस में ये एग्जाम्पल है, साइंस एंड टेक में ये एग्जाम्पल है, एनवायरमेंट का ये एग्जाम्पल है, पॉलिटिक्स का ये एग्जाम्पल है, सोशल एस्पेक्ट्स का ये एग्जाम्पल. बट इट शुड नॉट बी एग्जाम्पल हेवी, बट व्हाट शुड बी द केस? इट शुड बी आर्ग्यूमेंट प्लस एविडेंस मॉडल. सो फर्स्ट गिव एन आर्ग्यूमेंट and then give an example to support it. Just don't quote the example. Say you are talking about women empowerment. So आपने multiple dimension women empowerment in finance or say कॉर्पोरेट लेवल तो आपने बोल दिया कि इंदिरा नूई इज द सीईओ ऑफ पेप्सी। देन स्पोर्ट्स लेवल पे बात करें तो बोलो सानिया मिर्जा हैज डन एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी जॉब। अब आप बस एग्जांपल कोट करे जा रहे हो अलग अलग डिमेंशन से, रादर देन गिविंग आर्गुमेंट एंड सपोर्टिंग इट विद द एग्जांपल। दिस शुड बी द मॉडल। ओके, नेक्स्ट इज your body can have multiple approaches to be addressed to। अब कुछ बेसिक अप्रोचेस हैं, जैसे कि इन द बॉडी यू कैन स्टार्ट बिल्डिंग फ्रॉम द स्क्रैच, फ्रॉम द स्मॉलेस्ट यूनिट, एंड देन combining those units you can build up a larger structure। So for example, you can start exploring a particular topic at the level of an individual, then create a family level पे उस टॉपिक को एक्सप्लोर किया, then create a city or say society, then at a state level, national level, and then at a global or human level you can explore these topics on these dimensions, and ये इस टॉपिक को एक लार्जर फोकस देंगे, मींस एक लार्जर ग्रेटर पिक्चर पेंट करने में हेल्प करते हैं और एक होलिस्टिक पिक्चर पेंट करने में हेल्प करते हैं। यू स्टार्टेड विथ एन इंडिविजुअल, नाउ विद दैट इंडिविजुअल यू कैन आल्सो क्रिएट वेरिएशंस। दैट इंडिविजुअल कैन बी अ वुमन, he can be an SC ST, he can be a transgender, he can be a poor or a rich person, he can be physically disabled or mentally ill person। आप इन डिमेंशंस पे बात करो। ओके, देन द इश्यूज कैन बी बेस्ड ऑन chronological level also। You can start a topic in this chronology also, say in the ancient aspect, ancient time, then medieval time, then modern, then post independence, then post globalization। These are the chronological dimensions that you can pick up a particular topic, and उसको हर टाइम पे कैसे कैसे उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया में चेंज आता गया, या क्या बिहेवियरल चेंज था, एटीट्यूडनल चेंज था, वैल्यू चेंज थी। You can actually talk about it: ancient, medieval, modern, post independence, post globalization। Okay, then there are some issue related topics। सपोज देयर इज सम पर्टिकुलर इशू, कई बार ऐसे क्वेश्चन आ जाते हैं कि कुछ एकदम इशू पे है, कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म, or maybe some basic issue that has happened very recently, they might be asked as a question। For example, role of technology, or technology is a hidden factor in international relations। Okay, so now several agreements, उस समय जब ये क्वेश्चन आया था तो it was very much commonsensical, because we were talking about say technology sharing agreements with various countries। Okay, जो हम टेक्नोलॉजी लेते हैं, say like aircrafts and various other technologies, what we get is just the prototype of that aircraft rather than the technology sharing। So what actually is happening, we have just become a permanent customer of that particular country rather than having the capability to develop that product by our own in the near future, because technology share nahi kar rahe। So we have been buying guns, we have been buying tanks, we have been buying a lot of other technologies, but with very few countries we have the technology sharing agreements, and the countries with which we have technology sharing agreements, they basically are our closest friend। Okay, so there can be some particular issues that can be asked as an essay। Now in those issues you need to talk about the prospects। See, what are the major prospects, what are the major domain that can be seen or explored in this particular issue, then the major concerns, and then the challenges। Now don't get confused between concerns and the challenges। Concerns means the existing condition which is acting as an obstacle, challenges means the attitudinal problems। Okay, जो सबसे बड़ा obstacle है, जो ये concerns create कर रहा है, what is the major attitudinal behavioral issues that is actually creating those concerns। Okay, and then the way forward. So this can be one of the mechanism. Okay, or you can actually talk about some stakeholder mechanisms. आप लोगों ने ethics में case studies आप लोग की होगी. Okay, so you must have read about this stakeholders mechanism that you can actually use to explain the ethics case study. So the stakeholders, like you can talk about an individual, or the stakeholder can be an institution, the stakeholder can be a corporate group, it can be a government. So stakeholder level पे भी आप एक topic को discuss कर सकते हो कि how when an individual is a stakeholder, what is the major issues, concerns and the challenges. Okay, then when the corporate group is the stakeholder, as a stakeholder, what are its responsibility, what are the major concerns and the challenges. When the government is the stakeholder, what are the major issues, concerns and the challenges at that level. Okay, so this is, or maybe some particular institutions which are the major stakeholders there. So उनके respect में क्या major issues, concerns और challenges हैं. Based on that, comprehend it and then come up with a holistic solution addressing the concerns and challenges of all the stakeholders. So that can be one of the approach to go for the body. Okay. The last one is conclusion. So for conclusion, what needs to be done? A sense of closure should be there. कि अपनी बात पे पूर्ण विराम लगा रहे हैं. आई एम जस्ट जितना भी बोलना था, जितना भी भड़ास निकालनी थी, जितना भी सब बताना था, सब निकाल दिया, सब बता दिया. अपनी क्रिएटिविटी जितनी दिखानी थी, सब कर दी. But now we are bringing a closer to whatever we started with. And it should always be futuristic and optimistic in nature. Okay. It should always give a sense of hope to the reader. In any kind of topic you write about, आप despite knowing the fact that the condition is very poor, कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता. ठीक है, suppose if we are supposed to write about Indian democracy, we all know that the condition is too poor. अभी आप लोगों ने कल वो वीडियो देखा होगा मेयर इलेक्शन वाला चंडीगढ़. Have you seen that? So आप देखना उसको, तो you'll understand that in what state of condition are we going back to? Are we progressing or are we going back to the same kind of conditions that we came from? So ये सब जानने के बाद आपको लिखना वो है that would give the reader a sense of hope. होप आनी चाहिए उसको कि हाँ यार अभी भी कुछ होप है, पिक्चर अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त. सो अंत हमेशा अच्छा ही होना चाहिए. ओके, और अगर वो अच्छा नहीं है तो वो अंत नहीं है. सो रिमेंबर दैट. सो it should be futuristic, it should actually be optimistic, it should and then you should never start a fresh argument in the conclusion. Never ever start a fresh argument. एक सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम आती है कंक्लूजन में. इवन इफ द पर्सन हैज रिटन वेरी गुड एसे, इंट्रो अच्छा लिखा है, बॉडी अच्छी लिखी है, कई बार टाइम इम्प्रॉपर टाइम मैनेजमेंट की वजह से कंक्लूजन अब्रप्ट हो जाता है. ओके, ये सब बढ़िया बढ़िया चलता आ रहा था, बॉडी में बढ़िया बढ़िया बताया, कनेक्टिंग पैराग्राफ्स लिखे, सब कुछ लिखा, अचानक से 2 लाइन में कंक्लूड कर दिया. सो दैट एक्चुअली क्रिएट्स अ सेंस ऑफ एम्प्टीनेस इन द माइंड ऑफ द रीडर. इट माइट फ्रस्ट्रेट द रीडर. यार सब कुछ तो बढ़िया चलता है, अचानक से 2 लाइन में एंड कर दे. सो इट शुड नेवर बी टू शॉर्ट. So your conclusion should actually seem like a conclusion and it should at least be of 100 words. Okay. So normally कई बार क्या होता है कि philosophical essays में या किसी और particular essay में 100 words का conclusion लिखना, that means 1 page entirely for conclusion is not possible. So what to do then? So what people do is they basically take this way forward wala part in the concluding part. Okay. वे फॉरवर्ड को कंक्लूडिंग एंड बना देते हैं कि अगर ऐसा ऐसा करते रहे तो वी हैव ए वेरी ब्राइट फ्यूचर इन द कमिंग डेकेड, और द कमिंग डेकेड विल बी द डेकेड फॉर इंडिया और विल बी मार्क्ड बाय द डेकेड ऑफ इंडिया. ओके, समथिंग लाइक दिस. सो दिस वे फॉरवर्ड कैन बी टेकन इनटू द concluding part rather than being a part of the body. Okay, so this is what you should be keeping in mind while writing the essay. So some basic tips for intros, bodies, and conclusion. Now we'll see the syllabus. I have kept this part at last because we all know that there is no specific syllabus that is actually mentioned in UPSC. But I have shared the PYQs from last 10 years. You all might be having the access to this, but we never bother actually to take up the print of this last 10 years paper and look what kind of questions have been asked. We are aware about the essay paper. Suna hai, philosophical essay aa rahe hain, essay aa rahe hain, but we never dared to actually take up the papers and see the kind of trend. Now, if you see the trend of essay, I can actually broadly divide it into somewhere around 12 to 15 themes. Okay, ये 10, 12, 15 themes आपके essay में अक्सर पूछी जा रही. And if you have a command over this 12, 15 themes, trust me, you will never fail or you will never actually feel the fear of the paper of essay. Once we discuss the theme, I'll tell you a tip. If you work upon it and if you give 2-3 hours to one of the theme, आपका essay का score कभी भी below average नहीं जाएगा. Means it will always be above average, 130 plus, 135 plus, 100%. I can write it on the SAM paper for you. Okay, but you have to do this and spend around 50 hours for essay. And आपका 1 घंटे की कीमत है, आपको 3 नंबर मिलेंगे per hour that you spend. You'll get around 2.5 to 3 marks for sure for every hour you spend. Now, let's see some broader themes. So, for example, one of the major theme is basically philosophy. अभी जैसे कि 2018 के बाद से आप देखोगे कि बहुत सारे philosophical essays आ रहे हैं. Majority of the essays are philosophical essays. So first I'll talk about the philosophical themes, and then I'll be talking about some general themes that you are normally covering in social issues, social justice, polity and economy and science and tech and so on and so forth. So one major theme, philosophical theme, is wisdom. Now that wisdom basically can be synthesis of intuition or logic, then creativity and effort, then innovation and experience. Or maybe information plus inspiration. So इस तरीके के सवाल पूछे जा रहे हैं कि जो आपके wisdom है, it might be a combination of information and inspiration, creativity plus effort, innovation and experience, intuition and logic. Then it is basically related to unleashing imagination, or maybe defying expectation. You are not constrained by any kind of, आपके thoughts restrict नहीं हो रहे. You can think beyond a certain, you are thinking about outside the box, something originality. Okay, or maybe having holistic understanding of a particular topic or a phenomena, or use of all the faculties of reason, maybe mind, senses, reason, or say mind, senses, heart or emotion, or knowledge. All the faculties are being used to create wisdom. Now, another one aspect may be embracing curiosity. Or looking at the subtle details, or what is called as celebrating small wonders, or looking at overlooked nuances, subtle details. जो चीज कोई नहीं देख रहा वो आप देख रहे हो. That is the wisdom. Or overlooked nuances. So that is अल्टीमेटली आप देखोगे कि इन सारे एस्पेक्ट्स में एक ही चीज की बात हो रही है, विजडम. द अंडरलाइंग कंसेप्ट इज विजडम. आई जस्ट वांट यू टू सी सम ऑफ द टॉपिक्स ईयर वाइज जो बेसिकली इस थीम पे बेस्ड है. आप देखो 2023 सेक्शन ए, सेकंड क्वेश्चन. Visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. Okay, first. In the same section, question number 4, inspiration for creativity springs from the effort to look for magical in mundane. Overlook nuances ko dekhna, celebrating small wonders, and that is the wisdom. Okay. 2021 section A, question 4. The real is rational and the rational is real. Wisdom. Section B, question 1. What is research but a blind date with knowledge? Okay. Unleashing imagination. आप blind date करने का मतलब you don't know about the person जिसके साथ date पे जा रहे हो. You are ready to explore anything, embracing the curiosity, unleashing imagination, defying any kind of expectations. That is the wisdom. Then 2019, wisdom finds truth. When you are not constrained by any kind of thought, your imagination is beyond any restrictions, you will be able to find the truth. Okay, so wisdom is one of the basic theme that has been repeatedly asked in philosophical essays. Second one is challenge as a catalyst. So challenge and एक तरीके से सेल्फ डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं. So that self development is not a smooth journey. It comes because of some kind of challenges, some kind of frictions. So it's basically focusing upon dialogues and debates that will basically lead to growth. Means आपकी thinking broaden करेगा, thinking spectrum को broaden करेगा. Dialogue and debates. Then personal growth through friction. So life that is untested is not a life at all. Something like this. Okay. An untested or unexamined life is not a life at all. Or open-mindedness and humility. Or beyond right and wrong. There is nothing right, there is nothing wrong. What you get from doing wrong is the experience. So every wrong brings you closer to the right. Okay, so something like this. So beyond right and wrong, the challenges that you are getting with every failure is that you are reaching closer, one step closer to the success. Okay, or living to the fullest. Or utilization of the potential. Or creative tension or creative opposition. Something like this. So these are the sub themes in this challenge as a catalyst or for self growth. Now just see the questions that have been asked in PYQs, खास करके philosophical essays में on this theme. So let's see 2023 question, section A, question number 1. Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there is an opposite team. So with dialogue, debate, friction, conflict, opposition, you will be able to think more broadly. The thinking will actually develop. The thinking will actually elaborate only when there is some alternative way to think. When there is a unanimity, the chances is that कि आप सोचोगे ही नहीं. Means भगवान exist करता है. अगर आपने बोल दिया कि हाँ exist करता है, so there is no thought about it. You don't think about it. The condition is status quo. When I say that कि नहीं भगवान exist नहीं करता है, then you will think about, or say you will try to find out the evidences to prove your point or to negate the other person's point. Only when there is an opposition. जब मैंने बोल दिया कि भगवान एग्जिस्ट करता है और मैं इस बात को सत्य मान लेता हूं और कोई ऑपोजिशन ही नहीं है उसमें, in that case there is no point of thinking about it. A lot of things, for example, do we ever think that does sun rises in the east? Why? Because there is no opposition to it. When somebody at some point of time says that the sun doesn't rise in the east, sun rises in the west, and then you will start thinking. And suppose that statement comes from a person of a high caliber, not me, you, or somebody else, but a person from, say, some Yale University or Cambridge University, then you will start thinking about it. And he has a reason that what you call east in my culture is called as west. I call it as west. And there is no east and west when I talk about the cosmic level. वो तो हमने डिसाइड किया कि ये ईस्ट है, ये वेस्ट है. So then you start pondering upon it, and then आप शायद एक और लार्जर पिक्चर को समझ पाओगे. पर जब तक आपने इस बात को एक फैक्ट मान के चल लिया और जब तक कोई ऑपोजिशन नहीं था, there is no chance of elaborating upon it. Okay, so challenge as a catalyst and how it will lead to one's self-development. When that thinking is actually challenged, how will you learn more participating into that opposition, personal, say, creative tension? That means that tension that will actually lead to your growth. Okay, or 2022 section A question 4, a ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what the ship is made for. Okay, again, challenge. If you are not facing the challenge, then you are not basically utilizing your potential. That is for self-growth, for utilization of potential, living your life. That challenge is to be. So your brain is used for solving mysteries. अगर आप बोलते हो कि मेरे को इन सब चक्करों में पढ़ना ही नहीं है, that means you're not using the brain for what it is made for. Okay, and if you start using it, the more complex issues that you start to delve upon, it वो issues solve हो या ना हो, but your brain eventually will develop. Okay, so that is what your brain was actually made for thinking. Else we would have been like any other animal who did not have the capacity of critical thinking. हमारे पास है तो करो, नहीं तो what's the purpose of this? So this is one of the theme. Then 2020 में question A section A question 3. Ships do not sink because of water around them. Ship sinks because of water that gets into them. That is when something becomes status quoist. Okay, जब उसको कोई चैलेंज नहीं, स्टेटस कोइस्ट हो गया, तब वो सिंक करने, वो डूबना शुरू कर देगा. ओके, स्टेटस को, स्टैग्नेंट वाटर is the breeding ground for breeding ground for mosquitoes and insects. Anything that is basically getting challenged and working properly will not be sinking, will always stay afloat. But जब हमारे अंदर status quoist tendency आ जाती है, be it in the respect of the body, be it with respect to the politics, be it with respect to the say any kind of economic, कोई कंपनी है, आप कंपनी ने एक बार मार्केट लीडरशिप पोजीशन अटेन कर ली, but it is not actually working hard to maintain that position, एक for granted ले लिया उसको, that very day the company will start sinking. Okay, ऐसे ही गवर्नमेंट है, हमने बोल दिया कि डेमोक्रेटिक हो गए, इलेक्शन करा लिया, हो गई, but if you are not improving upon it, automatically there will be a downfall. हमारी बॉडी है, if we are not using our body on a day to day basis, तो एक point of time पे हमारे organs काम करना बंद कर देंगे at a very early age. Downfall. So individual level, institutional level, company level, and various other aspects पे आप देख सकते हो. So you have to use, or you have to actually improve upon what you are doing, and you should continuously start solving the new challenges. You should start facing the new challenges in order to remain relevant in the context what you are actually functioning. Okay. 2019 section A question 4, courage to accept and dedication to improve are the two keys to success. Again, for self growth, self improvement, challenge, एक basic theme है. Okay, next one is the theme which is very common, the theme of journey versus destination. What is more important? Is it the journey that is important or the final goal? अगर आप लोगों ने वो एस्पिरेंट सीरीज देखी है, एस्पिरेंट सीजन 1, तो उसमें जो एंड में एक कविता सुनाता है वो कि इतने पहाड़ों को चढ़ने के बाद जब मैं टॉप पे पहुंचता तो मैंने देखा कि मेरे जैसे बहुत सारे ऑलरेडी वहां पे खड़े हुए. So he is actually emphasizing on the journey. That what is more important is not your final result, whether you are in or you are out. What is more important is what you learned in this journey and how this has actually changed your personality, how you have become a better human, better or more aware citizen, and so on and so forth. So this journey versus destination is one of the very important debate in philosophy also, or which is also very simply known as the debate between means versus the end. What is more important, means or the end, or the journey versus the destination? So this journey versus destination will actually talk about the freedom and autonomy, or purposeful explorations. आप क्या क्या explore कर रहे हो? Okay, then it will actually promote internal navigation over external judgment. Or it will celebration of non-conformity. तो जब आप non-conformity को celebrate करते हो, that you are not actually bound by some kind of well-established structures, then you're enjoying the journey, not bothering about the destination. अब journey पे ज़्यादा focus कर रहे हो rather than the destination. So such kind of themes are very, very frequently asked. See 23 question, section A, not all who wander are lost. That is talking about the subjectivity of the lostness. तो जो किसी के लिए lost है might be a spiritual exploration for the other. मैंने सब कुछ त्याग के हिमालय चला गया तो बोलेगा कि ये सठिया गया है. Some people will say that he has lost all the senses, he has gone insane. But a person like me who has actually abandoned everything will think that these people have not understood the reality now. And when they will realize this, it might be too late. Okay, maybe I realize that I'm not on earth for just gathering material goods, money or property, fame, name. But maybe I'm here for, I am born as a human for more spiritual experience. Okay, I'll choose that path. Now, subjectivity of lostness is basically a different understanding of this journey. अब लेकिन जो destination को बहुत ज़्यादा value करते हैं, what they will say that कि you have a fixed journey, that 10th pass करो, 12th pass करो, graduation करो, preferably B.Tech करो, then MBA करो, और maybe अगर B.Tech के बाद MBA नहीं करना है तो UPSC करो, and then get a job, get married, have children, get them married, die. Okay, so that is the destination is decided, and that's why the journey is fixed. They are not allowing the variability of the journey. अभी आप और हम जिस background से आए हैं, if we say that कि we want to become, we want to read arts 10th में ही, कि मेरे को sociology या ये सब philosophy पढ़ने का बहुत मन करता है, तो immediately we will be scolded. We actually know that कि how we have been pushed towards science. पढ़ने में अच्छा था 10th में, लड़का है B.Tech करेगा. पढ़ने में अच्छी है, लड़की है, साइंस लेगी. एवरेज 80s में परसेंटेज आ रहे हैं तो कॉमर्स चलेगा, और अगर कम है उससे तो आर्ट्स ले लो, कम से कम ग्रेजुएट हो जाएगी या जाएगा. दिस इज द इम्पोर्ट व्हेन द डेस्टिनेशन इज फिक्स्ड, so the variability in the journey will not be allowed. But when you are not concerned about the destination, the journey can be variable. Okay, and when the journey will be variable, you will have a lot of, you embrace the uncertainty, and when you embrace uncertainty, you are ready for all the kind of experiences, all the kinds of enlightenment that you can get during that journey. And some of the questions, that we actually see. Not all who wander are lost. Next, 2020, section A, question 2. Mindful manifesto is the catalyst of tranquil self. Okay, focusing upon the journey. The mindful manifesto means consciously सोचना कि किस direction में move करना है, rather than moving by the norms of the society. कि सोसाइटी में इज्जत चाहिए तो बीटेक करना पड़ेगा, एमबीए करना पड़ेगा, 8 डिग्री 8 फिगर्स पैकेज लेके आना पड़ेगा, तभी इज्जत मिलेगी. नहीं, नहीं चाहिए मेरे को. So if that is the mind, so my focus is not to impress others, but to be happy inside. Okay, and that tranquil self means self-satisfied person, the one who is at peace with himself. Okay, because what you have done is you have not actually tried to conquer the conflicts outside, but the conflict that is going on in your mind. You have understood it, and then you realized it, and you are at peace with yourself, tranquil self. Okay, so this is one of the theme. Then another one, it's just an extension of this theme, is the broader theme of life. So it will be talking about the meaning and purpose of the life. Then the idea of self-discovery, self-awareness, then experiences and reflections upon it. What you experience, what do you reflect, and then life goals or best lived life. What is your life goal? What is the best lived life? Okay, now the questions that you can see, 2022, section B, question number 6. You cannot step twice in the same river. It's also related to journey versus destination. It's also related to life. Life में बहुत सारे experiences पहली बार होंगे, and that will be the only time when you will have that first time experience. So this is your first essay class, and this will always be your first essay class. Okay, you cannot have a second first essay class. That class will be different, and it will never be your first class. It's always the first experience. So all kind of experiences in your life will be the first time, and that will be the only first time that you will have with respect to that experience, whatever it is. So आपकी शादी, मान लो कि God forbid 3-4 शादियां हो जाती. So the first marriage will be the first one only. You cannot have the same kind of feeling what you had, same kind of fear, same kind of anxiety in the second marriage. It will always be the first. Or a first interview. So God forbid if you have to give 2 interviews. So the anxiety, pressure, panic attacks, whatever you are supposed to have in the first interview will be there only at that time. You will not feel the same thing the next time. But problem क्या है कि हम अपने first से future को determine करते हैं कि अगली बार भी ऐसा होगा. Okay, economics में भी ऐसा है. For example, say share markets. COVID में market fell down very significantly. There were some people who actually used this opportunity to buy the shares. Now every person is now believing that another pandemic will come, and also the market will fall in the same way again. But will it happen? Now not बाकी लोगों ने अकल नहीं सीखी है कि मार्केट गिरेगा तो अपने को खरीदना है. Now everybody knows about it. So it happened for the first time there, and that will be the first time only. When the next pandemic comes, people will already have some kitty reserved for such kind of pandemic. People will be waiting for it, for the market to fall down. And in such a case, nobody will actually going to sell. Are you getting this idea? So there will always be the first time for everything. And there cannot be a second first time. Okay. Next, 2021, section A, question 2. Your perception of me is a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. So what you perceive about me is a reflection of your thoughts, your prejudices, your stereotypes, your socialization. And how I respond to your reflection is a reflection of my thoughts, my prejudices, my stereotype, my socialization. किसी ने आपको गाली दी तो वो उसकी सोशलाइजेशन दिखा रही है, लेकिन आपने उसको गाली दी तो दैट्स नॉट ए रिस्पॉन्स टू व्हाट ही डिड. It actually shows your socialization. Or if you actually forgave him and you move ahead, that shows your socialization, your mindfulness, your thought process, your understanding, and various आपका जो internal self है वो दिख रहा है. So your behaviors are not determined by your somebody who is external to you. How I respond to a particular situation is determined not by the situation, but by my socialization, how I'm trained for it. तो आपके पेरेंट्स ने आपको ट्रेन किया होगा, आपके स्कूल ने आपको ट्रेन किया होगा कि इन सिचुएशन में यू हैव टू रिएक्ट इन सो एंड सो मैनर. तो फॉर एग्जांपल आप किसी से पिट के आए घर पे स्कूल से, तो यू स्टार्ट नरेटिंग योर स्टोरी टू योर मदर एंड योर मदर सेज दिया नहीं तूने उसको एक. देन यू रियलाइज दैट योर मदर इज आस्किंग यू टू रिवर्ट बैक. दैट मीन्स इफ यू वुड हैव हिट हिम और हर, your mother would have appreciated it. The next time this incident happens, you will definitely hit that person. So what actually determined the response? Is it somebody hitting you that determined your response, or is it what is inside you is determining your response? Definitely what is inside. So self-discovery. So what you do is what you are internally programmed to do, not what the external circumstances make you do. Okay. Next is question 2020 में section A, question 1. Life is a long journey between human being and being human. So again, a similarity, journey versus destination, or life, meaning and purpose, self-discovery, self-improvement, self-dialogue, same thing. Okay, 2018 question, section A, question 2. A good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. So what is the best lived life? So some general themes getting repeated every year. One question from those themes coming up. Another one is a theme on political philosophy. Okay, that political philosophy very repeated. One is justice and equality. So the idea of just society, distributive justice, dignity and respect. Then fair and equitable structures. So overall, the underlying theme is justice and equality only. And you will see that ki one more thing, that is the idea of collective good. Okay. Now see the questions that is with respect to these themes. Justice, equality being the underlying key theme. 2023, section B, question 7. A society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. Okay. 2020, section B, question 6. There can be no social justice without economic prosperity, but economic prosperity without social justice is meaningless. Then question 2019, section A, question 3. The best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. Collective good. Okay. So आप देखोगे कि ये themes repeat होती हैं. Okay, I'm just giving you a demo for the repetition of themes. Now, another theme that is not philosophical, it's related to science and tech, that is innovation and artificial intelligence. Okay, now if you see, ये दो major common areas हैं, innovation or innovation for all and artificial intelligence. Now see, 2023, mathematics is the music of reason. So talking about reason, logic, empiricism, objectivity, innovation, and all such kind of things. Okay. Then 2022, history is a series of victories won by scientific man over romantic man. 2019, what is research but a blind date with knowledge? A repetition means scientific का combine वाला part भी कर सकते. 2020, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication or ultimate sophistication. So we are talking about to make certain tasks simple. Government schemes को simplify करना चाहती है, law को simplify करना चाहती है. Okay, or we want everything to be available at a click. But in order to create that simple infrastructure or simple interface, we actually need to understand that phenomena very in deeper understanding and then create a simple interface for that. मतलब जो जितना simply कोई चीज बता पा रहा है, तो that means he has a very good understanding of it. He has done a good research upon it. Only then he can make it that simple. नहीं तो पहले imagine how difficult it was to use a computer. Okay. Now with time, anybody with just 4 or 5 days of training can actually use a laptop. We are not trained right now, but बचपन से ही हमें laptop मिल जाता है and we start understanding it because the language, the interface has been made so user friendly that anybody can use it. पर पहले इतना difficult था, MS-DOS use करते थे सब. Okay, so in MS-DOS you need to have some aware about the commands, and then when you know that command, only then and जब भी आप वो proper syntax में लिखोगे, only then that command will be executed and then you will be able to utilize a computer. So now it has become very simple. Anybody can use it. Mobile phone. A person is illiterate. Okay, वो एक भी class नहीं गया, he is using Facebook. The social media is so simple. So simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Law. अब इतने complex literature लिखे गए हैं, legal debates हैं, but you can understand it basically किसी एक particular site पे उसको एक line में बता दिया कि आपके पास ये rights है, ये duties हैं, that is what you need to do. These are the documents that you need to carry for these laws to be implemented. That's it. That's the most simple. But that person has to have a good understanding for that sophisticated topic in order to make it simple. Okay. Then technology as a silent factor in international relations. Then rise of AI. 2019 में question है. Rise of AI, the threat of jobless future or better job opportunity through reskilling and upskilling. Then 2018, alternative technology for a climate change resilient India. Okay, repeated theme. And the last most repeated theme is gender. Okay, one of the most repeated theme almost every year or every alternate year, there is some kind of question related to gender. It can be related to patriarchy, usually women's subordination, or it can be toxic masculinity. That means the overburdening of the men to being masculine. कि लड़के हो तो you have to be the breadwinner, you have to be earner, and there is some kind of pressure which actually women are spared of. उसके side effects भी हैं and there are some benefits out of it, and there is some kind of pressure on the male also from the very first day of their life. Their socialization differs. Now, questions that you see 2023, section B, question 1, girls are weighed down by restrictions, boys with demands. Both equally harmful disciplines. 2021, section A, question 1, hand that rocks cradle rules the world. Okay, role of mother. 2020, patriarchy is least noticed yet the most significant structure of social inequality. 2017, fulfillment of new women in India is a myth. Okay, so you can see that gender and all such kind of themes, ऐसे बहुत सारे themes हैं वो repeat हो रही हैं. Plus there are some broader themes that you need to be aware about. One is environment. इसके बहुत सारे सवाल आए हैं. Say environmental crisis, climate change, sustainable development. Okay. Then education. So education basically beyond school learning. So last year ही question इसी साल ये question आया था कि education is something that what you remember after you have forgotten whatever has been taught in the school. So education. So beyond school or academic learning, book learning, or the future of the nation is shaped up in the classes. ऐसा एक. So education is very repeated theme. Then another repeated theme is related to some globalization, okay, and the consequences of it, the loss of culture, the loss of heritage, the loss of diversity, and so on and so forth. But ये इतना ज़्यादा repeated नहीं है. Another one is media. In case of media, so it can be formal media, it can be social media. So formal media ka a biased media is threat to Indian democracy. Or question on social media is that we have self-discovery has been technologically outsourced. It's basically talking about the social media, the profiling of the individuals, and basically what we are is basically decided by our Instagram profile and Facebook profiles and so on and so forth. So such kind of themes getting repeated. So now collectively I have talked about broadly 8 to 10 themes. Okay, and if you see that in 8 to 10 themes may say not all the questions, but yes, at least one question from each of the section will be from this 8 to 10 themes. Now the best way actually to ensure that you have a decent score in the essay, आप बस इन 8 से 10 themes को पकड़ो and create 2 intros and conclusions to it. 2 intro conclusion आपको create करने पहले से. So for this 10 themes, you will have some already prepared intros and conclusion ready with you, which you will be going in the exam with it. And what you will do is, when you find a particular theme, just try to check the intro conclusion that you have, which one is fitting there. तो आपका 50% task तो वहीं खत्म हो गया when you actually know the intro and conclusion is already prepared. Okay, so just take these 10, 12 themes, prepare intros and conclusion. Okay, now intro conclusion कहाँ से prepare करें? Okay, so I'll just have some demo for that. I'll take just few minutes for this. I know it's getting too long. Now this is one of the excerpt from an essay that was written by Shashi Tharoor. मैंने इसको intro की तरह use किया था for a particular essay that fulfillment of new India is a myth. Now this is you can read this. It says that in 1920s, a young Tamil girl sang and starred in her school musical. It was ostensibly a private event. इसमें से सब कुछ याद नहीं करना है, but just that story. It was ostensibly a private event with few outsiders. Yet so exceptional was her singing that the newspaper Swadesh Mitran ran her photograph and wrote about the event. Seeing that photo in the newspaper, her household was appalled, or say humiliated. For as the music historian V. Sri Ram writes, good, chaste women never had their photographs published in the papers. It was that kind of thought that used to happen there. Okay, today this seems like an archaic prejudice based on gender, one fostered by conservative, ill-educated, economically stagnant, and culturally insular society of the 1920s. There are more vicious examples of gender discrimination now, from the dowry deaths to multiple rapes in Delhi. So connecting the past, that ये past वाली बात आपको कितनी backward लग रही होगी, लेकिन what are we doing now? Okay, that is the intro. Yet the census of 2011 reveals the worst discrimination of all, that there are even more missing women in India than Amartya Sen first realized a quarter of century ago. Okay, that's the intro. Now, this is the conclusion of the same essay, a very connecting conclusion. The conclusion is awareness of the problem must be increased. Whatever, blah 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 likha hua hai. The last line is very important. As for that young girl who was once chided for getting her photograph published in the newspaper in 1998, she went on to be awarded the Padma Vibhushan, India's second highest civilian award. She was D.K. Pattamal, the grand matriarch of the Carnatic music. Okay, as her life exemplifies, in every seed there is nestled a mighty banyan awaiting its opportunity to bloom. Now, you started with a story, you left it unaddressed, and you concluded with the same story. You completed the circle. This is one of the intro that you can write and the conclusion. अब ये एग्जाम में तो नहीं बनेगा. Okay. तो उस केस में if you do some kind of efforts, यही 50 घंटे लगाने, ये 10-12 थीम पकड़नी है, intro conclusions पहले से तैयार रखने. Okay. Now, then this is one another essay that I was reading somewhere. I don't remember the author. तो ये मैंने as it is इसके intro conclusion copy कर लिए. अब इसको as it is use करूंगा एग्जाम में. I will not be actually writing it, but have some prepared intro conclusion, at least 2 intro conclusion for each of the theme that we have discussed. And trust me, इनमें से कोई ना कोई आपको काम आ ही जाएगा, or you will be able to modify it to such an extent that you will be able to use it there. आपका 50% effort वहीं खत्म हो गया, because you now know how to start and how to end the essay, and the essay will be having जो वहां पे scratch से build up कर रहा है उससे तो बहुत बेहतर होगा. One very good story. You see, this is one of the intro for AI. That is, imagine a world where machine can diagnose disease, write symphonies, and even hold a conversation that feel eerily human. This is no longer science fiction. It is the reality of artificial intelligence, a rapidly evolving technology transforming our world at an unprecedented pace. Something that is very common, but इसके vocabulary, इसका flow इस तरीके का है that it might appeal the examiner. Okay. Now, this is the conclusion for that. As we stand at the threshold of a new era shaped by AI, it's crucial to engage in open and informed discourse about the ethical implications and responsible development of this technology. So, you are trying to bring a sense of closure. कि जो भी इसके ethical aspects हैं उसको भी ध्यान रखना है कि joblessness ना आए. Remember that essay, joblessness, also fruitless growth. Will AI usher in golden age of human progress, or will it exacerbate existing inequalities and pose unforeseen risk? The answer lies not only in the advancement of AI itself, but also in our collective wisdom. So, something bringing a sense of closure. We have discussed this. Now, closing it. Okay. Now, this is one very famous story. Wish I I'll share this story. The story is something like this, that there was a businessman and there was a person who was fishing on the beach. Okay. So businessman went to that person who was fishing on the beach and asked that, what are you doing? He says that I'm fishing on the beach. So he says, what will you do with that fish? He said, I'll take the fish and I'll go to home. I'll cook the fish, have a beer and sleep. So why don't, by this way, you will not be able to catch many more fishes. He said, what will I do with more fishes? He says that you can have more money. He says that what would I do with more money? So he says that you can buy boats. He said, what would I do with that boats? He said that you can fish more and have more money. And then again he asked that what would I do with more money? So he says that you can have multiple people, multiple boats who will be fishing for you. You can have a company, you can have a house in New York, and so on and so forth. So he says that what would I do when I have all those things that you mentioned? He says that you will have plenty of time for your leisure. He says that what would I do in those leisure time? He says that you can sit freely on the beach and fish. So the person answers that I'm doing the same. Okay. So that is the idea of the tendency to accumulate or tendency to be satisfied with what you have. So there is a essay that philosophy of wantlessness is utopian, while materialism is a chimera. Okay, that there cannot be a condition that you want nothing, but there is no point in having a tendency to accumulate everything. सिर्फ गैदर ही करते जा रहे हो, इसमें भी कोई सेंस नहीं है, because when will you enjoy everything that you actually are accumulating? So that is some of the stories, some of the anecdotes that you can actually use as intro or conclusions. I'll share this PPT. इसमें कुछ YouTube videos, TED Talks videos भी हैं, and if you see that, for example, there is a TED Talk video of Ramchandra Guha. आपको पूरा नहीं देखना, आप उसका intro देखो, उसकी speech देखो. I actually happened to listen to that speech, and he talks about India at 70. He says that the moment India got independence, several obituaries were already written for its demise. मतलब पैदा होने से पहले ही शोक संदेश लिख दिए गए थे कि मर जाएगा. Some said that it would die because of famine. Some said that it would die because of military coup, or so on and so forth. But at 70, we stand as a miracle story to the world. Okay, that can be one of the intro related to something related to India. Okay, a very positive and very mind-boggling kind of introduction, a very inspirational kind of thing. Okay, आपने intro लिखा, और आप वो ऐसे कई सारे TED Talks, कई सारे speeches में से you can pick that excerpt and use it as an intro. That will be very much motivational. That might be very much intriguing for the examiner or for the reader. So this is some general tips that I wanted to share. You will be having next classes that Vishwa sir will be taking, and he'll be discussing about the deconstruction of, say, philosophical essays. Will give you some philosophical insights that you can use to write the essay. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much.